Hey, it's Terry, your favorite no bullshit artist and business coach, and you're listening to Terry Talks, where we discuss all things taboo, uncovering art industry nonsense, grounding you in confidence and leadership to run an arts business with unwavering power and grit. Hello, party people. Welcome back to another episode of Between the Two of Us. It's a spin-off 90s mixtape vibe from my podcast, Terry Talks. And the goal is to bring in real life stories from professionals and business owners in the freelance world, ranging from artists to lawyers, and really just sharing their perspective and their approach on all things business, challenges, successes, advice, all that stuff. And I wanted these to come from the perspective of other people, right? So Between the Two of Us covers all kinds of topics. And so today, one of my podcast winners is an artist, Letetia. Letetia Farr was born in Oklahoma City. She's a self-taught contemporary artist who is currently in Dallas, Texas. And in 2016, which I feel like seems like forever ago, she decided she wanted to be more of an artist and take it more professionally. She purchased her first set of painting materials and began this journey. Her newest collection is titled Changing Faces, and it's inspired by womanhood and femininity. And so what she's going to talk to us a little bit about, and she's going to explain what's been going on with her and her work and how it's evolved, is really about her sales process and some gaps that she's noticing throughout the year. So let's go ahead and bring her in to the conversation so that she can tell us what's going on and we can share. And the idea behind this type of like on the spot coaching is that the people who are listening, all of you who are listening right now, a lot of what she's about to share with us is probably going to resonate with a lot of emerging artists, and maybe not just emerging. You could be someone who's been in the industry for 15 years and still have the same challenges that an emerging artist might have as well. So hopefully the idea is for you to take away bits and pieces of this on the spot coaching scenario. Just to give you some background, she is not a one-on-one client. She won the podcast contest where I chose 3 people based on some of the challenges they were having. And we're doing this on the spot. There is nothing pre-prepared. And yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so we've got Letetia Farr with us. Hello. Thank you for giving me some time this evening.
Yeah,
How's everything going?
it's going great. It's going great.
What is let's talk a little bit about what's going on with you now and what you are in the process of creating, what's going on with your arts business, all that good stuff. Give us a little bit of background.
Right now, I'm still an abstract artist. So right now, I'm creating a lot more faces, changing faces. Right now, still neutral tone faces, minimal abstract art. Right now, I'm planning on coming out with a new series, 2 new series in the next month in the new year. So
Wow.
I plan on coming out with a new changing faces collection and just keeping
Like
those.
ground running.
Yeah.
I love it. And where are you getting like this? How did you kind of come up with this style for these abstract faces? And I mean, I know what your work looks like, but just in talking, if you're listening on Spotify, can you kind of explain a little bit about like what these very minimalist, linear, abstract faces, like where they come from, what your approach is?
So it represents femininity, womanhood, and like the changing faces is basically women's faces. How oftentimes we have to change our faces in the world to represent ourselves. And it's neutral tone colors. I love neutral tone colors because of the fact that it goes with everything. It goes with greenery. It goes with everything in your house. You can just basically pair it up with anything. So I love the fact that it's minimal art that I come out with, and it sets me apart because it's minimal, and then it's like home decor in your house.
Yeah.
So
So you're making it accessible, but it's also obviously original. We're not talking home goods. We're talking something, your brand essentially. And
mhm.
so I love that you've developed this style, and you've really kind of you've stuck with this neutral palette, which obviously then reaches a broader audience. Um, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of today's coaching session. If you're listening and you have been following me on Instagram for quite some time, you know that I don't fuck around. You know that a coaching session with me, whether it's 30 minutes or 60 minutes, we get a lot done. The purpose and the goal behind any of my coaching sessions is to make sure that my client walks away with tangible action items, tangible things that they feel confident implementing pretty much right away. Because if it becomes too overwhelming, and if it becomes you're in a space where you have more questions, that obviously can deter you from taking that next step. So we want to minimize that, and we want to make sure that Letetia really has some takeaways that are strong enough for her to consider other opportunities, consider other ways of doing things in her arts business. So share a little bit about what's been happening in your arts business, what you have found is not quite gelling, or it's not sticking. It's been an issue maybe for a little bit, and talk to us about that.
I would say one of my challenges is keeping up with the style that I have. Me being a creative, I like to venture off and try new styles. And lately, I've been taking that. I don't know if I should stick to the style that I have originally that I came out with, which is the changing faces, or should I change it up because of the clientele decrease in the past few years. So I'm just trying to find that that comfort. Like, should I stick to what I've originally came out with, or should I change it up because the clientele has decreased a lot over the years? And and back in 2020, I did really well in 2020 with the changing faces. And I don't know if it's like the modern look, is people, do clientele still like the modern look, or is there something missing? Should I change something? Or it's just basically finding that unique style.
Yeah. So here's a couple things that I just heard. And we'll obviously, this is just like the tip of the iceberg. Number one is artists, all artists evolve, right? And they are consistently changing their style. I would say, most of the times we're sticking with one concept, right? The concept we love the most, that we're most passionate about expressing. But it is normal for all of us to evolve. And I find that question, that it is a common question. People are like, well, should I stick to, like, how niche should I be? That is the question. How niche should I be? Should I be niche for them, or should I be niche for me? Like, what is the balance between self-expression and my audience? The second thing I hear, I want to separate like kind of these challenges. The second thing I hear where things might be falling short is that it's affected your sales. Now, do you know if your style, or your aesthetic and your art making has had an impact, like a negative impact on the drop in sales? And what does the drop in sales look like for you? What has it been looking like? And
Um,
I would say over the past 2 years, let's just say 2 years.
yeah, because I would say in May of 2020, that's when I started the collection.
Okay.
And that's when I had the most sales. Like, I would see sales every single day, like
And
every
that's
single
year
day.
one pandemic. That's basically year one of pandemic, where
Right.
buying artwork was hot, but online shopping was hot. Let's just put it that way.
So, you know, people are sitting at home just buying up stuff like all day, I guess. And they just wanted stuff for their house or something. But that was my best year, like 2020. And it's, some days I get sales, some days I don't. But in 2020, I got a sale every day,
Wow.
like at least 5 sales a day.
Amazing. And would you say that those are both originals
It
and
was originals. I would get originals with canvases. I would have customers want canvases shipped. I would get prints, but it would only be changing.
so so it was all your inventory and the things that you had in stock, everything was available to people. What trends have you seen now in your sales?
Um, it's been still with the changing faces. Like, still, customers have been buying the changing faces, but they've been also buying things that I've recently came out with, like other, just random, like my newest collection I came out with is like a newspaper collection, and it has like spray paint and graffiti and stuff like that. But I've been having like more so of that going on now than
That's your most recent work.
right.
So
The
as it's changed, your most recent work is what's been catching people's attention.
right. Instead of opposed to the changing faces.
So in between 2020 and let's just say like the start, I guess, of your new the evolution of new work, new collection, new series, new style maybe. What was the trajectory of your sales? Was it still trickling in fairly consistent, or what were you having dips in sales? Like what was the challenge for you?
Um, it was basically like the dip in the sales. Like, I would say the dip in the sales, but the thing is, I really would say that online, that was, and on like social media, that's where I would get all my sales from, is social media. But if I were to go to like an art show or an art networking event, it would be other art that I would be selling, like not from the Changing Faces collection. It would be my new art that I would come out with, that artists or that customers would want to buy, but it wouldn't be Changing Faces. So I'm just trying to figure out of how to stick to that unique style. Should I stick to that unique style, or should I venture off and try new things? I don't know. Like I said, in 2020, it was just that sales. I was getting sales so much from the Changing Faces, and now, and like I said, it was the neutral tones. It's
Yeah.
not, you know, graffiti and like bright colors.
Right. Totally the total opposite of
Right.
what you are showing us. Um so again, there's this like push and pull from you, and I think that this is a you issue, not I don't want to say issue, but I think this is a you um being kind of confused on whether you want to stick to this sort of brand, or how it's going to evolve into maybe a slightly different mixed media style where the two maybe need to marry. But this sounds like an internal struggle a little bit between you and you, where or maybe the artist and the business person, because you talk a lot about sales and you talk a lot about your personal, like the art, and how do we create a balance in our minds for like, oh my god, do I, in order for me to have a brand, do I just do the same thing for the next 10 years and be known for that? That's like impossible. That's like saying a baby stays a baby for the next 20 years, right?
Yeah.
We evolve as people, and I think that yes, it is exciting for our social media audience, or someone who's coming to an our art opening to see new work. Yes, that may have been the dip in sales. We'll never know, because it's like, if you have an event and your birthday party and it rains outside, it's like unpredictable to know if no one came out for the rain or if people just didn't want to come out, right? And so we can't really predict that, but I think it's important to analyze, that you noticed and acknowledged that there was a dip in sales. Now,
Hmm.
we can't say if that dip in sales was because you switched up your brand or because your color palette maybe wasn't as exciting to people. The thing about that is that people still like what they like. And you may have not given it some time to actually um, foster the relationship with those people who still liked your work. Maybe they wanted it to be bigger. Maybe they wanted, the same style, but in like a different color palette, but it has to agree with you at the end of the day. It
Right.
has to agree with Letitia. You're the one who has this concept, right? I think that people who jump from style to style oftentimes aren't taken as seriously if they leave behind something, and you're not like informing us and bringing us on this journey with you. That becomes confusing. It's like applying for an open call show and putting all this different shit in your portfolio. And I'm going to be like, as a juror, I'm going to say, wow, this person doesn't have their shit together. Like it's looking a little confusing. Or you have a portfolio that there's a woven synchronicity. That is not a word, I don't think. But, that there's some like synchronization and flow in your portfolio.
Right.
And so that's kind of like, obviously I'm coming from an MFA background and I know that you're self-taught, but that is, looking at the overall collection. It's okay to have different collections and look at your sales, analyze that and say, you know what, was I not pushing hard enough, right? There's that radical acceptance of what the artist in business is responsible for,
Mhm.
and saying, well, was I projecting? Did my audience feel like I wasn't pushing that part enough? Like I wasn't really like fully in it? Maybe like, is there a possibility that maybe you just weren't feeling it anymore?
Right. That could have been what it was too. Maybe I got kind of bored with it, because I think about things all the time of like how what I can create and this and that. But I was like, well, maybe I should stick to what is selling. But then again, I don't want to stick to something just that is selling because then I'm not able to create. You know what I'm
And
saying?
who are you as an artist?
Right. If I'm limited on what I can create. So that's why I'm trying to decide, like trying to find that balance, I guess you could say. And but I I'm thinking like maybe I can still come up with the changing faces things, but then I can also create other things at the same time. That way I can have some type of balance there. Still like you said, still creating the same thing that you're known for, but still,
I mean, I think that all like we all like I like right I'm part of that audience. I follow you, I look at your work, I look at your reels, like I'm impressed, and I think that all of a sudden if you like jumped on Instagram and started posting like pop art, I would be like weirded out. I would want way more information. Why? Because social media is an engagement tool. I would want to have a conversation about that, right? I want you to be in stories telling me like what is in your head. Share the things that I don't know after looking at your artwork. And so I think that's key to keep informing because that's where the buy-in comes in,
hmm
right? That's where people are like, you start like, that's a hook,
right.
right? You want to keep your audience engaged. You want to keep that conversation alive just because, people aren't verbally talking back to you. And I think a lot of people on Instagram forget this. It's such a powerful tool that it doesn't have to be done with words. We can talk and I don't have to like everything and I don't have to constantly be in your DMs for us to have a conversation. I don't need to call you. Like
Mm,
I'm already having this organic conversation every time that I look at your work or that I, use any of the things in that app that are there for. So I don't want to derail into social media because I could talk about that shit all day. But what I do want to say is, this push and pull between sales And your personal style, it has to come from you and it has to come from within. And maybe that you need to pause in order to speed up, which I tell my clients all the time. It's like, what if we took 2 steps back? We went back to the drawing board because artists can walk down one street and have 10 different ideas within one block,
Yeah.
right? I mean, how many times does that happen to you where you're just like, holy shit, I just came up with the most fabulous
Yeah.
idea. And then we go back home and, we don't really execute. It's still on the bat. It's still there.
Yeah.
So I think that, going back to the drawing board and seeing what you're feeling drawn to the most, what is hitting hard with you.
Mhm.
Let's take your audience out of the conversation for a second, right? Because we don't have to put all that shit on social media. Like we can quiet things down a little bit. That's
Mhm.
why a lot of us work in solitude in our studios and bring that quiet space to to a place where you can actually just think for you.
Right.
Is that like what's coming up for you right now?
No, I get it. No, like I just feel like creating you shouldn't it just shouldn't be about what others think, it should just be about what you want to do, and you shouldn't think about that all the time. Like I know clientele is going to be there, but at the same time, what do you want to do for yourself?
And we can't always base that on sales. Sales is not the only indicator that we're popping and that
Right.
we're doing a great job. And we started this conversation with that being an indicator, right? You had mentioned a couple of times, well, my sales dipped and now they're looking again. And I was doing so well in 2020 because people maybe, were decorating or liked this. And yeah, that was a moment. That was a moment for you. You're going to have more moments. And
Yeah.
we don't want to rely on the sales as the barometer for success. And
Right.
if we are, then we should be selling wholesale. Then we should be, on Etsy doing things slightly differently. It just really depends. How do you want to run your business? What matters to you? What is your purpose in choosing to be an artist? We choose this.
Yeah. And that's why I feel like I did come out with some, like I started creating other stuff because I got bored. Like I was like,
That's you. That's you.
think that I mean,
And that's normal.
yeah, it's normal. Like, so I just and then that's when I probably was starting to think, well, maybe I should just do stuff that I like for myself. And so that's why I started thinking, well, I'll still create changing faces and neutral tone things, but I still want to get into the spray painting and like the
Having fun.
you know
Yeah, like who are we if we're not exploring materials to represent our concepts? Who the
right.
fuck are we? Like that doesn't, you know what I mean? Then we become a mass producer.
Hmm.
And I think when I'm listening to you, I feel like even your face is like you're like opening up and accepting like this might be a moment of change for you to accept like shit, I might be outgrowing that.
Yeah.
And my audience might be feeling that because we can tell when someone is like in a, where you're like restless. You got that like restless leg syndrome and you're just like, you can't sleep and it's uncomfortable in every direction. And, I'm a mixed media artist. So I completely understand feeling like if I'm too tight in one area, I
Hmm.
definitely will pick up a completely different medium usually. My concept won't change. I've been working with, ideas around mental health for years. And I, ended up with like, I was doing like going back to like pasta art. I was doing all kinds of, and then I moved into digital collage and photography and like melting all these things together and screen printing. And so I get like that. And I think a lot of artists listening get the boredom type thing versus do I do this because my sales were hitting?
Right. because
But your
that's
sales will hit and you might be able to expand your audience. That's the like maybe the silver lining to consider.
right. No, that's understandable. Yeah, definitely.
So let's give me some takeaways. What are you walking away with today? We're gonna wrap this up. This was good. This was good, girl. You brought up some really like strong struggles that artists are having like
Yeah.
all the time.
I would say that I took away that it shouldn't be based on, sales all the time. You should basically just do what you should do for yourself. And, yeah, I did have like a good year in 2020, but um, still create art that you like for yourself and don't base it on the sales all the time. Just uh, still create,
Yeah,
but
for creating sake.
hmm
I also want to end this note by saying that um it's the exploration part and the passion part is it's what we bring to the table that's going to make people buy at the end of the day. People buy from people. If we see that you're not coming with that energy, you're not fully present, and you are, you know, just not like in it to win it, and you're maybe not showing it as much or things are slowing down, that's okay. But those sales come when you are like internally on fire.
right.
For real. Like that's people are like, oh shit, she's so excited about this. Like, oh, I need to look. That FOMO starts, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they want to be a part of your joy. And
hmm
so I just kind of wanted to end on that note. Thank you so much for being vulnerable, having this coaching session with me. I know that, this is not an easy road. There's going to be ebbs and flows, and but we have time.
hmm
We have all the time in the world, and we're going to still be making regardless of what kind of money comes in. we might
Yeah.
as well we might as well make money doing it.
Right.
We're still going to be making regardless. So
Right.
I wish you the best. And if you want to follow Letetia on her journey, where do we find you? What are you working on right now? Like what's for sale, girl? Tell us.
Okay, so you can find me on Instagram at elnicoleart.com. That's LNYCOLEART. And you can also go to my website, elnicoleart.com, as well if you want to purchase any type of artwork there. And for the listeners that are listening to this podcast today, you can use my coupon at checkout on my website at lnicoleart.com, and you can use the code love free. So that's LOVE
I love it.
REE, love free at checkout, and you'll have free shipping on all my artwork.
Yes, yes, that was good. For all of you who do not rep yourselves that way, please take note. She even spelled out her Instagram. I love it. That is actually very important. And I will have all of her information below this podcast screen so that you can go to all the links and make sure you buy and support small business owners. Thank you so much, Letetia. I'll see you soon.
All right, bye.